Welcome back to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grausbull, and joining me today is Rebecca Thomas, affectionately known as Giddy Up within her cancer community, and her inspiring journey we are sharing today. So she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1992 at the age of 18. So she has lived as a survivor for 33 years, embodying resilience and hope. Her journey, which includes a breast cancer diagnosis in 2019, has inspired countless others, showing that a meaningful, vibrant life after diagnosis is possible. Rebecca's experience ignited a passion for healthcare, leading her to earn a Bachelor of Science in Food Science and Human Nutrition from the University of Maine. She has since built a dynamic career as a medical assistant, patient educator, and clinical coordinator. Beyond the medical practice, she's a certified equine specialist in mental health and learning and a riding instructor, weaving her love for horses into her mission to uplift others. A pivotal moment came when Rebecca attended an epic experience camp for Hodgkin's lymphoma survivors, where she found a supportive community that became her extended family. That inspired her to become a dedicated volunteer and alumni board member for Epic Experience, contributing through camps, regional meetups, fundraising, and community engagement. Rebecca's zest for life shines through her passion for animals, especially dogs, cats, and horses. She's an avid runner, completing 2 marathons in the last few years. And Rebecca also enjoys fishing and travel with family and friends. Her story is a powerful example of living fully and purposefully, offering hope and inspiration to survivors everywhere. So welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Hi there.
Wow. So everything that you have in here is like what this podcast is all about. So you even put in hope and inspiration, which is the tagline for the show, in your bio. So I love that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's how I feel. And what a great introduction,
huh? I just read it. So that's is your life. So I love it. And so Giddy Up obviously comes from your love of horses. Mm-hmm. And Rebecca and I met at our camp experience, which I have talked about in the past, but she was an amazing volunteer and so much fun. And her journey was so inspiring that I can't wait for you guys to all hear it today.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
And then where do you hail from, Rebecca? Where are you living right now?
I am in Maine, the beautiful state of Maine, southern Maine, and I've been here my whole life. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's gorgeous out here.
I keep saying that we're going to get out there to visit one day. It's one of the few states that I have not seen yet.
Well, and now you have a good reason to come out.
Absolutely. My aunt and uncle who lived in Pennsylvania, they go up there probably every 2 to 3 years for their like anniversary week, and they just absolutely love it up there as well.
It's gorgeous, but winters can be challenging. I will say, but it's okay.
Good. Plus, aren't like most of Stephen King's books set in Maine?
They are, yeah. I know it's a big thing going up to see his house where he lives and stuff up in Bangor. It's kind of fun.
I don't know, is it a little scary up there sometimes, or?
No, not to me, but I grew up with it, so.
Yep, we're going camping in the deep woods in Maine. Okay, let's go.
That's right. Nothing to be afraid of.
Okay. All right. We'll come in the summertime and stay like in the city or near the water.
Just watch out. Okay.
Watch out for sharks, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, but Rebecca, take us back. I want to really start. Like, you've been a survivor for 33 years. That is absolutely incredible. So take us back to when you were 18. Like, what were you doing in life and how were you, diagnosed originally?
Yeah, it was, it's interesting because it was actually yesterday was my 33-year mark of my official diagnosis date. So I call it a cancerversary, like we all do, I guess.
Absolutely.
I was 2 weeks from heading off to being a freshman in college, and I had this big old lump on my neck, and it had been there for months. And, I just ignored it. I was, ignorance is bliss, I guess. Never really sick, never really went to the doctor. And, I was like, Then I felt another lump kind of go, down into my axillary or armpit area. And I'm like, I should probably get this checked out. So um, I told my parents, and they're like, okay, we should go get it checked out. And I think they knew. I actually kind of like knew ahead of time. Back then in '92, they had this old book that you'd go through. If you have this symptom, if you have this symptom, go to this. And I still have that book to this day. It's like, but it, led me right to Hodgkin. So I had the biopsy that day. And sure enough, yep, Hodgkin's lymphoma. And my whole life shifted, at 18, getting ready to go off to college that, I had to defer for a year while everybody
Now, is
else.
Hodgkin's usually like an adolescent cancer, or were you just special in that way?
No, it's usually 15 to, and I feel like it's usually 15 to 35, or I don't know if that's shifting though. I feel like you're seeing more. But it's generally it's more of a technically I'm a pediatric or, cancer survivor, young adult since I was 18, but generally it's younger.
Okay. And is the treatment fairly, and I know you and I both said like we don't really like the term cancer free, but is it generally quote curable?
Yeah. I mean, it's highly curable, for sure. Um, of course, there's always caveats to that. With treatment comes all these other things that we've talked before. I mean, and back then, treatment today is very different than it was 33 years ago,
Okay.
for
Was it a
sure.
lot harsher back then, or just like throw
Yeah,
everything at it kind of treatment back then?
throw everything at it. It's kind of interesting. At 18, I think it's just so different now. As 18, they're like, well, we could take your spleen out to see if it's gone below your diaphragm and do the staging laparotomy, or you could just not do that and have chemo and radiation. But if it's not below the spleen, if you have the laparotomy, then it's just radiation, intense radiation. So I'm like, well, you hear chemo at 18. I don't know anything about anything. Um,
Other than you
and
lose your hair and you get really sick.
yes.
That all you
So
know about chemo at that age.
I mean, that's all I know. And so, of course, me and my family were like, and it was primarily my decision. The doctor's like, it's up to you. I'm like, I'm 18. I don't know anything. You tell me what's best. But I just went for the staging laparotomy to see if it had gone below my diaphragm. And so they removed the spleen, piece of the liver, a bunch of other lymph nodes and stuff. And it hadn't gone below the diaphragm, so it was just mantle radiation. So they just did full body radiation from my head to, and they don't really block it. They start with the upper, and then they did the lower part of my body and just blast you. So very different than today. So, but I'm here 33 years later. Yeah.
There you go. Any after effects with no longer having a spleen?
Lots of after effects. I mean, I'm definitely immunocompromised. I have to be extra cautious. Um, I think my immune system has done a great job of, adapting for
Mhm.
sure. But when I get sick, it's it's the real thing. So I have to be really cautious. But I tend to be a very healthy, knock on wood. Um, but generally, I'm pretty good.
Well, definitely with running marathons and your love and passion for horses and all things, were you a very active, healthy, child and teenager, or did that kind of come as a result of like, hey, I gotta be healthy, I gotta take care of myself?
No, I started running when I was in fourth grade, believe it or not. And
Wow.
I went to running and like, I was going to run in college and everything. That did change after, your body definitely gets beat up a little with treatment and all that. So I actually stopped running for years. And then I think a few years ago, I really got back into it. And then I'm like, well, maybe I can do a marathon. So um, I've always been very active, but just kind of stopped running just because of the effects that, treatment had on my lungs and joints, all the good stuff.
Hmm. Wow. And to go back in your 40s and decide, hey, I'm going to run a marathon. Like I used to run before my knees said, you really shouldn't do this anymore. And like I ran several half marathons, but that was kind of as far as I could go. Like I was done and just exhausted for 2 days after a half marathon. I can't even imagine like, yes, I'm just going to train for a marathon. Like, how do you decide to do that?
Wow, that's interesting. Because I was told by doctors I have running all these years, my knees, my hips, everything shot, my lungs, aren't nearly, there's so much damage. Um, but I think it was a few years ago, I don't remember what year, I made this New Year's resolution. I don't usually, but I'm like, my husband likes to do it. So we sat down and I'm like, well, I'm going to I'm going to work out every day for a year. I don't know why. I just chose it. I just chose it. And so I'm like, I started because I hadn't been exercising. I'd been pretty for me. Um, so I started doing that and I'm like, let me see if I can run a half mile, And I just, as I was building up and doing my exercise every day, and then I slowly got up there and like, maybe I can do a half marathon, 6 months into the year. And I did. And then I'm like, I think I can do a marathon. And so that resolution, if you break them, I didn't exercise every day that year. I missed like 7 days because of Epic experience.
Out of a year.
I know. But in that year, I was able to do that marathon, which is something I said I would never do. And, even though I was a long distance runner, I'm like, marathons, that's so hard on your body. Why would you do that to yourself? So that's where that came from. And then I've been running since, and I love it. It's just a way for me it's a meditation for me almost. But my body's definitely feeling it. I said, one more marathon, an ultra marathon, then I'm done.
You're going to do an ultra marathon? Really?
Yep. I'm going to do that in the next year. And then I need to find something else.
So you are currently training for that?
Not currently. I'm working towards it, working on some hip issues because the last marathon, it does its thing. So, but I'm back on track for that. So that's why I was hoping to do it this fall, but it looks like it's going to be next year because I really want to be well prepared, and it takes months.
And which one are you doing and how long is this one?
I haven't decided, but I really loved the Marine Corps Marathon. So I think I want to go down to DC again and do that because the energy was just amazing. I had my best time. It went by so fast because there was just so much to see and the energy. So I think I want to do that. And it has a lot of meaning. My dad was a Marine, and I want to do it as another fundraiser for Epic. And so I think that's it. But there's some other ones that I'm kind of taking a peek at. So we'll see.
Okay. And how long is the DC Ultra for the Marine Corps?
I just want to do a 50K. So which is the 31. Just the 31. Anything over, a marathon is an ultra. So I'm going to do the 31.
Oh, okay. So you're not doing the 75 miler or,
No, I mean, no, I'm not. My body would be like, no. I probably could do it. I probably would be the type. My husband always says, you have grit. You'd be like, have a broken leg and probably still be running if you had to get to that finish line. So he's like, but I think my body would be happier if I just did the 50K.
I love how you just say just. Just 31 miles. No big deal.
It isn't, It's amazing what our bodies can do. And I think that's what I discovered from that, resolution. I was able to do something that I didn't think I physically could do because of cancer and, and other just years of wear and tear and getting older.
Right. All right. So your camp nickname is Giddy Up. And so tell us where your love of horses came from. Has it been all your life? Was it something that came to you later? Did you have horses growing up?
I did not. You know what? Actually, I fell in love with horses over 20 years ago, I can't remember, or so. A couple of girlfriends of mine and they're like, we're going to go out to Colorado and go to a dude ranch. I'd never been to Colorado, um, never been around horses. So I'm like, sure, I'll go. I'll probably fish or something, I'll horseback ride a little bit. And I went out there and it was magical. Colorado was magical for me. And I fell in love with horses there. And after that, I started taking lessons, started leasing. Then sure enough, I didn't tell my husband. I'm like, he comes home and there's a saddle and all this horse stuff. I'm like, he's like, did you buy a horse? And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, you didn't
So
even tell him?
I did not tell him. He's a good man. He's a good man. Yeah. And so it's just been a passion of mine since then. I mean, it was life changing for me. I mean, going to Colorado was life changing for me in that fact for a few reasons, but I'd never been to Colorado and it was just magical. And then to find a passion in my life that I didn't know I needed nor I wanted. And, I'm always looking for a passion, something that just ignites you. And I love it. They're just these amazing, majestic creatures that can teach us so much about ourselves. So.
Absolutely. There is an organization here in Colorado called Hope Held by a Horse. And it is this woman, who started it. I think I want to say she has 5 horses. I'm trying to get her on the show. And she does like day and a half retreats for cancer survivors where you just get to spend time around the horses. And they, I'm sure they are so empathetic and, they just bond, with the people who go to these retreats and stuff. And I'm going to get her on the show, but I really want to go and, just hang out with horses for 2 days. Like, what could be better?
They have this fifth sense, I say, of knowing what we're feeling before we know what we're feeling. That's why they're such healing, animals and creatures, and the bond, to build a bond with this 1,000-pound, animal. It's just pretty phenomenal. What I've seen horses bring to other people in a healing setting. So that's awesome.
And now do you just have one horse? Is this the same horse that you first bought, or are you like a serial horse owner?
I'm not a serial horse owner. I mean, it's been many years, so I've lost a couple horses but no, these are 2 horses I've had. I have 2 horses right now, okay. Sammy and Miss Matisse, I call her. And I've had them for, almost 10 years and 11 years, I think, maybe a little less. But these are my forever horses. I will have these guys until, they've earned their, when they can no longer do what they need to do and they just want to hang out in the pasture, that's okay. So I will have them until they're no longer with us.
How old are they?
Sammy is, I think he's 19. I have to look. And Matisse is 18.
Okay.
So they're good ages, very healthy horses. But I'll have them for a few more years.
How long do horses normally live?
Usually 25 to 30 years. I mean, that can vary. I mean, I lost a horse at 10 years there.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But usually 25 to 30 years is a typical lifespan. So.
Okay. So you still got a few more years with them?
I do. Hopefully, yes. But they're amazing. They've given me so much, and these 2 horses have taught me so much about myself, and I feel like I have to honor what they have given me. So they will not be going to anybody else.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Like what have they taught you about yourself?
I think, truthfully, this inner strength that I never saw in myself. Like, I never saw, honestly, I feel like there's a reason you pick a certain horse, like when you're looking for a horse. And these horses that I had, they were different, but they're both strong leaders. And and very kind and empathetic. I'm describing my horses, but then people like, you're a lot like your horses, and I'm like, really? Like, you're a really good, leader. You're a really good, you're stronger than you think, when you work with these animals and you teach. And I'm like, and I guess that's what I always think of is like what they brought me is like, I had this strength in me. It's probably always been there, but I just never realized it. And I still don't, I think, at times. But Sammy taught me, like, he's like, you got to be a leader, or I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And when I was there and fully present, he just, he's like, okay, I'm going to do what you want because so I think that's what, and they are strong leaders as well in their pack, or their herd, I should say, not pack. So it's just interesting because I find that, being in the horse world for so long, people choose a certain horse for a certain reason, and they kind of almost mimic their owner in some ways.
Well, they say that, dogs end up looking like their owners or vice versa. And I guess maybe horses and their owners get the same characteristics or find them in each other, I guess, when they first connect.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true because one of my horses, he was beat up. I kind of saved him and been through a lot in his life, and he was emaciated, bitten. Horse bites all over him. He was the ugliest horse, but I just saw something in him, and nobody wanted him. And but I just, over the years, he's become this just strong, kind leader in his herd, and so I think he taught me a lot about Sammy, taught me a lot about myself. So
I love
and
that.
it's a very similar story, I feel like, in some ways.
Absolutely. All right. So you were just kind of going on living your life. You're, 20 some years cancer free and, just going about living. And then, tell us about 2019. What happened there?
It's 2019. I was like, having had cancer so long, I think there's been years where I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to ignore this. I don't need to go to that breast, MRI. I don't need to do this, mammogram. So I took a little hiatus, I guess you could say, from like not seeing doctors because I'm like, I'm healthy, I'm good. I just didn't want to deal with all the other things and complications. So I'm like, it'd been 2 or 3 years since I'd seen my primary care doctor and done anything I should. And I went to my physical, and he's like, well, it's been a few years since you've done, any of your mammograms or MRIs. I'm like, I know, it's 27 years later. I'm good. So I'm doing my exam. He's like, doing a breast exam. He's like, I feel a lump, I'm like, I can't tell. I just have fibrous breasts. So he did the exam. He's like, well, you're due. Let's do a mammogram and ultrasound just because you're due for them. And so that was what triggered me getting my mammogram. And sure enough, they did find breast cancer. It wasn't in the breast that he felt the lump.
Really?
But it wasn't. No. They're really fibrous, and I'm like, that's why I just never did my mammogram, self palpitations or, whatever, of like, not
Right.
palpitations, but you know what I'm trying to say.
The self-breast exams.
Yeah. So, and then like, okay, we need to get you in, and we did the breast biopsy, and it's like, I always knew breast cancer was going to happen. It's with the type of treatment I had, cancer, the age, I wasn't scared of it, and like I went in for that, and the radiologist came out, and she's like, yeah, you're lighting up like a Christmas tree. I'm like, oh. She could, she didn't say I had, she's like, but I knew. And sure enough, 2 days later, they're like, you have breast cancer. And I'm like, okay, so here's this journey. And so we just went through it. It was early stage.
Good.
I'm like, let's just do the bilateral mastectomy. I chose not to I couldn't do radiation. Typically I would have had radiation. But I've had my lifetime dose of radiation.
I'm sure
Because
you
of
did.
so, and I'm like, but they thought I would be fine because they removed all the tissue and they were just monitored. Didn't do tamoxifen or anything like that, but had the mastectomy and then reconstruction 3 months or 4 months later. I don't know. So
Well, how did it feel? Kind of like, I guess what ended up getting stirred up, I'm sure a lot did, feeling like 27 years I'm cancer free, and it's like, crap, I'm back to this again. Did you have any of that, or was it just, all right, I was always expecting this, let's get it over with and move on?
I think I went through the all the emotions. You go through all the emotions. I think I knew it was going to happen. I always said to people, and I wasn't, and people, some people don't like hearing that. I'm like, no, that's, it's kind of, there's lots of long-term side effects of my treatments, and but I always knew it was going to happen. But when I actually heard it, like I just remember just going down this like rabbit hole of like just thinking, and I'm like, it was very intense. It was an emotional roller coaster, is all I can say, because it was a very different journey too for me. I didn't have a connection to my lymph nodes, I didn't have a connection to my spleen with Hodgkin's, but losing your breasts and it's, as a female and how I identify, it was just, you're much more attached emotionally, at least for me, to my breasts. And so that's why it was very different. And I think that was what I struggled with most, is what I was going to look like. What was I going to do, from a physical standpoint, I guess. So that was a big difference, I guess. And I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did, yes. And so, like you've been a survivor for 33 years. Most of the people that I've interviewed and talked to are kind of, they're either in the throes of it or they're maybe a year or two out or maybe even 5 years. But, talk to me a little bit about like 33 years, this just long time survivorship, and, what is that like, I guess, and how has knowing this and having spent, over half of your life as a survivor, like how has that changed your life or shaped your life?
I think it shaped my whole life. I think being 18 and not knowing, I mean, I just can't imagine my life without cancer. I mean, my whole life trajectory changed at age 18. I was on this path, I'm like, so, and everything shifted, your whole mindset shifts. So at age 18, and then you have all this, it's just all the complications after, or long-term survivorship. And it's like you're always learning something new. Like, look out for this. Oh, your thyroid. You have to have your thyroid out, Rebecca. Your lungs are not what they used to be. You have heart issues. All the complications after. You're always kind of waiting for that next shoe to drop, I guess. But there's so many great things that come from it as well. It's just this up and down, like of learning something new. When's it going to happen, if it does happen, or will it happen? How can I prevent it? It's such a journey, and they're such different journeys. I think long-term survivorship is an interesting thing. Like I went to, a good example of this is like I went to this Hodgkin symposium. It's for long-term Hodgkin survivors or Hodgkin survivors. And I'm like, I'll go to this, I think it might be good. And that was a couple of years ago, and I went to it, and it was such a challenge for me. Going to it, because when I walked into it, it was scary because there was so much damage or chronic issues that I saw. And I felt like I was looking at my future. And so that was really intense for me. And it put me in this kind of downfall for a little bit. I got back up there. It's lots of ups and downs as you find out, oh, yeah, you've got, this complication after. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do hard things. So Yeah, it's just it's a long journey, and it's amazing what science, where we've come in 33 years as well. I'm always learning new things about what to expect, which is wonderful. I'm glad I can be a part of that educational journey, I guess, for other survivors as we learn. So,
Like I always say, I feel like cancer is the gift that keeps on giving. Just when you
mhm.
think life is good, boom. Oh, look at this. Here's another, just letting you know that we're still in your body, or like the effects are still in your body, and now it's time for you to do another hard thing.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and like your body really well too, and it's like sometimes when you go to some providers, not all, but like I'm like, oh, I'm having this, and it's hard to explain to some providers, I guess, in the healthcare, not all, like I said, but that some of these symptoms are very much related to my original diagnosis and original treatment from 33 years ago. And I think, they've gotten so much better over the years, which is amazing. The survivorship clinics and all of that. It's just an interesting how far we've come. That's what's like amazing to me. um,
And how the strides that just continue to be made. It's
yeah,
just absolutely
exactly.
incredible.
And like all these things that I can do now to prevent some of the things that scared me when I went to that symposium, when seeing those other, long-term Hodgkin survivors and, um, that's given me a lot of hope. Going to a survivorship clinic, I highly recommend for anybody because it's just they're on it and they've gotten so much better. And I feel like, oh, they're like, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, I didn't even know I had to think about that, but let's do that. So, I mean, with those ups, is great. There's those downs. It's just up and down. But again, like I said, I'm here now and I'm thriving and life is good. It really is good.
Awesome. That's so great to hear. And I've had a couple of other people on who have gone through Epic Experience and
Mm.
have shared a little bit about it. So hopefully most people know about it. If you don't, it's an adventure camp here in Colorado for cancer survivors. And it's just a week of fun and play and connection and community and just being pampered and having a great time. So share with me a little bit about your original camp experience,
Yeah.
and then, what led you to now be a volunteer and a board member, and like what was it about it that kept you wanting more?
I was in between my breast cancer surgeries, and I went on a forum for long-term Hodgkin survivors, just looking for having questions regarding because breast cancer is a big thing after Hodgkin's for a lot of patients, and just asking questions. And somebody on there, they were like, "You should check out Epic Experience. It's for it's for cancer survivors. It doesn't matter because there's not a lot out there, truthfully. If
Right.
you're over 40." Or if you're not within 5 years of, or if it's not a specific cancer. Um, so there wasn't a lot out there for me, and there was nothing back in 1992. I had a pen pal. We wrote each other's letters, and he was just another Hodgkin survivor, which was wonderful. But that's how we connected. I had never met another Hodgkin survivor, maybe one in my, you know, until Epic Experience. Anyways, getting back to that Epic, so I checked it out, and I'm like, and sure enough, they were having this camp, and they're like, "Can you come out in a couple weeks?" And I'm like, "Oh my!" I was due for surgery like the week after camp,
Oh my
and I
gosh.
was working, and I was gonna have to take off time for that. And thankfully, the doctors I worked for at that time, they were like, "You need to do this." So I
Mhm.
did it, and it was a camp specific to Hodgkin's lymphoma survivors. Obviously, Epic does any cancer,
Mhm.
which is amazing in itself. So I went to this, and it was amazing. Wait, all these Hodgkin's people? It was just, they had long term Hodgkin survivors, they had newer ones, just around other people that really, really get it because they know. And I didn't think I needed anything. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. I'm going to go out to Colorado. It's a little scary. They don't tell you what's going to happen. So it was just phenomenal because I finally met a community that never knew I needed, and a family. And we had so much fun. It was, again, life changing for me, because I've met some of the most amazing people in my life, and I can't imagine my life without them now, because of Epic. And I learned so much about myself and what I needed. So that's what brought me to Epic. And then I don't know why they asked me. Maybe it was my sarcasm, but they asked me to come back and volunteer a few months later at a camp. And so I did. And it's just being able to give that same experience that I had, is what I wanted to do. And then it's just kind of grew, and I keep doing more, and hopefully they keep having me. So yeah, that's kind of where that came from. I just want to be able to give that same experience. As it's a unique experience, and it's truly learning to play again as adults and be in the moment and have fun and not have to worry. Like, we're not telling you, or, we're not going to give you all the details. It's okay to just be present, and which is hard for us to do sometimes.
Yes, it is. And just a disclaimer, like, Epic Experience does not sponsor this podcast. I just want to share it with as many people as possible when I can, because of how transformative of an experience it can be for, people going through cancer or as survivors. So maybe the more people I get to talk about it, maybe more people will apply and try and actually go, because you will absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's just there's so many great cancer communities out, even outside of, I mean, there's just,
Absolutely.
for me, it was a community. I'd never been around other cancer survivors. Really, you meet other cancer survivors. Oh yeah, I've had, but not like this, and in this type of setting, and it was new to me, and that's what was so amazing. I'm like, and I want to be able to have that, like, when any work I do, it's like building that community is so important. And any volunteer I do in the cancer community, it's because it's like the connection is real. You just, like, all guards go down, and it's like, yeah, you had this problem. Yeah, I had that problem, with a certain treatment and stuff.
And so many people that I talk to, like, that's one of the biggest things that they say is important when you're going through a cancer experience, is your community, is your support, having people around you to lift you up, to know what you're going through, all of the things that it can't be stressed enough how important having people around you to support you and being community with you is going through this journey.
Yeah, I kind of liken it to, we're like these veterans who've been through, like, this war, and, like, then you go back to reality, or and it's hard to but relate sometimes to, you've got your vets. We're vets, and we've been through this cancer journey, and then we come back into the real world, and then there's the civilians, I like to say, like, and it's hard to, as much as they want to understand, my husband wants to understand, he doesn't quite get it. I can't talk to him like I can talk to another cancer survivor. It's just so, it's like this weight is off. I don't have to say I'm good sometimes. You can laugh at some of the funny things that happen when you're having your treatments and after and all this. And that's why I love the cancer community. And I never knew I had that passion until I started, until I went to Epic and found I needed that community.
So whether it's Epic, whether it's a support group, whether it's a Facebook group, whatever, there is something about being around other people who have gone through cancer that get it, versus our family, our friends who love us and support us and want to be there for us. There's just kind of a different level of really, truly understanding and just being supportive because they love you.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And my husband, like, and that's okay. I mean, I sometimes, like, as a caregiver, if you're a caregiver, I would it's harder being a caregiver at times, in my
I
opinion.
think I'd rather have cancer than have to take care of my husband, if he had it. I'd rather be the one going through it.
And I've told people that before, I've been a caregiver, I lost my dad to cancer, whenever you're a caregiver, whether it be cancer or anything, it's so much because you can't control it. You
Right.
can only do what you can do. And I've told people this, and I'm like, I would rather have cancer 3 times over than be a caregiver, because that emotional toll is pretty real. So
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, just such praise and love for all the caregivers out there, because you do a job that is, in my opinion, so much harder than the physical going through cancer itself.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, I ask this of all of my guests at the end. I say, if you came across somebody who was just diagnosed or is just in the throes of overwhelm, starting going through treatment, like what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone to just kind of help ease them through this initial phases?
I think for me, having two different journeys, I would say, because I went through it on my own the first time. I'm like, I'm good, I'm fine. I went to all my treatments myself. My second time, I'm like, I allowed people to help me, and I allowed people in. I talked about it, and um, just if you have somebody, like if they say, "Hey, can I get you a meal?" I'll let them do that. It's just it's a beautiful thing to allow people in and just share and like talk and um, be there for you. You know, that's what I found is amazing for me. The second time around, that was what I learned from my second journey is letting people in and help you. And if you need somebody to get you a meal or take you to an appointment, somebody to cry with, laugh with, whatever it is, just get out and do something fun. Um, let, let them do that and allow yourself to do that. It's okay. Because it's so healing. That's so healing in itself. It's healing for everybody because people want to do something too,
Absolutely.
as caregivers, friends, family, and it's healing for them. So it helps everybody all around. That would be my biggest takeaway.
And that is perfect. I wholeheartedly agree. We tend to want to do things all by ourselves and not need help. And, people want to help. So maybe we should just let them in and let them help us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Rebecca. This was such a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad we were able to make this happen. And it was great to see you again.
Yes, you too. Thank you again. This was amazing.
Of course. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye bye.